Yo, what's up, people? You're now listening to the Powercast, episode 7. I'm Gary Swaby, and I'm here with Richard Bailey. What's up, Rich?
Yeah, what's up, listeners and viewers? How's it going, Gary?
It's going good, man. It's pretty late here, but that was a great episode of Power. So it's a lot to talk about. But before we get into the discussion, I'm gonna run through the events of the episode real quick. Just give a recap. So the episode starts with Jamie in bed dreaming about Angela, and he's talking to her. He's saying, I'm gonna fix this and stuff like that. But then he wakes up and Angela's not there, and then he receives a text to come to the club. And then we see Angela, who's talking to Paz, her sister, and she's complaining about the whole breakup with Jamie. And eventually she's dragged into the office to be questioned because there's an investigation going on. So everyone on the task force is on the suspect list for Lobos's capture and murder. They they don't actually know that he's been murdered yet, but they know that he was captured, obviously, from last week. And the investigation group has actually traced the phone calls that were made to Lobos back to the task force. So they know that somebody from the task force is involved directly with Lobos's capture and possible murder. So the Club Truth is under close watch from the Serbs and Milan, and as Jamie's speaking with Karen, and later on he invites Tommy to the club as well. And both in both scenes you see the Serbs watching on. They're watching everything. And Jamie invites Tommy outside to speak to him a little bit, but then an SUV pulls up and takes them away. And during this whole thing, Andre's watching. He notices, that something's going on, and Tommy's back in the club and stuff because he was under the assumption that Jamie and Tommy wasn't even friends. So yeah, and also Kanan is outside watching close by as well. So he's watching what's going on, and he's obviously confused. Um, and then we see, Tariq is talking with Tasha, and he actually says something very rude to her. He actually curses, and she attempts to slap him, but he catches her. So, he's really growing up now. He's getting to that adolescent stage, and, he really just doesn't care anymore. And then during a sequence of interviews with the task force, it's revealed to them that Lobos is actually dead. There was a lot of interview scenes during the whole episodes because they had to interview the task force, and a lot happens there. But I'm just going to kind of summarize it. I'm not going to talk about each scene. Um, yeah, and then eventually Milan brings Jamie and Tommy to the warehouse to instruct them how to move the product. He instructs Tommy to kill Callahan, which is the father, the priest guy in the church, who, because apparently this so-called father is actually running guns for the I forget which cartel it is, but one of the Albanians, I think. Yeah, he's running guns for them. So Milan wants him dead, so he tells Tommy to do that, and he also tells Jamie that he wants him to sell drugs in the club and stuff like that. And he also demands that Jamie pay him for the product by the end of the day, and that puts a lot of pressure on Jamie. And Jamie actually goes to Tasha and asks for the kids' trust fund money and stuff like that to get money to pay, because he has to pay both Milan and Karen, because he has to invest in Karen's hotels so that he could be part of that business. And he's basically got a deadline for both of them that same day. Um, and later we see Kanan putting pressure on Dre to find out what's going on with Ghost. Then later, Jamie has to hold off on the investment with Karen Bassett. We see him talking to Karen and her father, and he actually admits that he doesn't have the money yet. But Karen kind of puts pressure on him to come up with the money by the end of the day as well. So, all sorts of ultimatums being thrown at Jamie. Um, Tommy visits Tasha, and during this whole scene, Tasha lets slip about Holly. She asks why he did that to Holly, and there's a moment of confusion where Tommy thinks that she knows what happened, but she actually doesn't. She thinks Holly's just run away basically because they argued, but she lets slip that Holly was pregnant, and then it hits Tommy. It hits home finally. And then Dre runs in to Ghost. He comes into his office and demands that Ghost lets him know what's actually going on. Jamie invites him to walk outside because there appears to be a camera in the room, which is interesting because something happens later. But yeah, there appears to be a camera in the room. So Jamie invites Dre to walk, and then he finally fills him in on what's been going on with the Serbs and everything. And he makes a proposition. He says, if you help me out, I'll give you half of the drug trade with Tommy and blah, blah, blah. And then, he actually gives Dre a little task to find that lady. I can't remember her name right now, but, one of the alleged staff members that went missing. He gives him a task to find out what happened to her because I guess he wants to set up Milan. Um, yeah, and then we see during one of the interrogation scenes, we see Sandoval getting pressured by the investigation team, and he actually asked the question, "How much do you know about Angela's relationship with Jamie?" So then, from that point on, the investigation crew kind of knows that Jamie might have something to do with this somehow. And then they put pressure on Angela during her interview process. And, Angela basically shuts down the accusations by claiming that she used Jamie to get to Lobos and, track Tommy at the same time to basically find Lobos. So, she kind of, well, I'm sure they still suspect her in some way, but, she kind of shuts down the accusation a little bit with that argument. Um, and we see Jamie actually go to Angela's place, and Paz is there, and she hands him his stuff and takes his keys to the apartment so he can't come back. Then we see Tommy telling Callahan to stop shipping the guns. He doesn't actually kill him, but he basically threatens him with a gun and tells him to stop running guns for the Albanians. And Callahan agrees. When Angela gets home, she actually calls the Bassett Hotel that Jamie said that he was staying at, to basically cover him for Lobos's murder. And then immediately after that, we don't hear the phone call, but immediately after that, she shows up at Tasha's place and she asks her outright if Jamie was at the hotel with her. And Tasha actually lies for Ghost. And she makes it out that, they basically slept together and they're back together and stuff like that. And then when Kanan is seen, talking on the phone to Dre, he's helping an old lady from the neighborhood or something like that. Apparently being a good Samaritan, maybe. And then, Dre is actually talking to Kanan while in Jamie's office. So, keep that in mind. And then Kanan enters the old lady's home and murders her. Very cruel. And then he basically puts pressure on Andre to get in on what's going on and stuff like that because Dre's filling him in on the whole Serb thing. And then there's a scene where Tariq and Jamie are talking, and Jamie's trying to talk to him and basically figure out what's going on in his mind. And Tariq makes a comment about Jamie's side bitch, and then he basically grabs him and shouts at him, and gets physical, and that leads to Tariq storming off. And then immediately after that, Milan shows up at the apartment, at Jamie's home where his family is. And, he's basically making out to Tasha that he's there to have dinner. And Jamie scheduled this, but really he's trying to intimidate Jamie because Jamie made the move to try and, investigate that lady, Tatiana, I think that's her name, because she went missing or whatever. So, I guess Jamie was trying to set up Milan, but Milan actually brought Tatiana to the apartment with him. So that didn't work at all. And during this whole thing, Tommy is captured from Holly's grave, and he's brought to like a warehouse, and he's beaten up and almost killed. And then we see Jamie. Jamie actually pays Milan. They have a conversation where he's intimidating Jamie. He's reminding him, "I know where you live. I'm a big threat," and everything like that. And Milan says, although you didn't get to pay Karen, I still want you to try and figure out a way to pay Karen, because I want my drugs to be sold in her hotels as well. So, he's putting a lot of pressure on Jamie right there. And then Jamie is that once Milan leaves, Jamie's forced to actually tell Tasha what's going on, because obviously that's a big risk. So he leads her outside because he doesn't know if the place is bugged at this point. And he tells her everything that's going on. And he says this line, which I find really interesting. He says, "I think Milan made a mistake, and I'm gonna use it against him." That's what he says. So yeah, later Angela visits Jamie. This is the last scene of the episode when Jamie's back at his apartment and Angela comes to visit. She asks him basically who gave up the information on Lobos's location so that they could capture and murder him. And Jamie is very careful with his words. He never actually admits to knowing what's going on. He basically, he finds a real slick way of saying that he doesn't know, who actually gave up that information. But, I'm sure Angela knows that he was involved somehow. So yeah, that's how the episode ends. A lot happened in that episode. So Rich, what was your immediate thoughts after seeing that?
All right, so I know that when we talked about last week's episode, I wasn't a fan of last week because I felt that the writing was a little sloppy and rushed. But now I see, that episode was titled "The Right Decision," so I guess they made the right decision and getting through that episode, because this episode was just like, there's a lot of stuff, we always talk about when we do these recaps that it's hard to determine what will happen in the next episode, but this was an episode where there was quite a bit of things that happened, just so many details. So let me go ahead and start to say this right now. For those that are watching or listening, well, you will obviously, if you're listening, you didn't see this, but you may have seen me laugh a couple times as Gary was giving the recap. Well, let me just say this: there was a couple things that you said that I thought was very funny. Let's go ahead and let's address Tariq. This is a kid that needs to have his ass whooped. You can't be disrespectful like that, and this is why people need to discipline their kids. Who does he think he is, talking to both of his parents like that? I actually thought that scene when he says something to Jamie, and then Jamie called him a little motherfucker. I thought that was. I'm like, whoa, yeah. That mean I couldn't help but laugh. I laughed when I saw that, man. I just wow. But yeah, I mean, this is not good for that character. Going down a different path, and he doesn't really know anything about his parents because they haven't really told him anything about the type of lifestyle that they lived and the stuff that they're involved in. So I kind of think that's gonna definitely become a factor as the season goes on. Maybe he will finally be opened up to that reality, and I'm not really sure what his reaction will be. But we're gonna have to see how that moves forward. Jumping to the whole storyline with the investigation, I mean, I was very, very surprised at how quickly that accelerated, where you now have them suspecting, oh yeah, there's a rat in your office. And you have this whole thing where Greg is still trying to get back at Angela. So obviously he's making her front and center, the main focal point of the person he thinks, he wanted to throw her under the bus. I know that a lot of times it was hard to determine how that situation was going to go. But then at the end of that little sequence, you saw that she pretty much threw Jamie under the bus. And, you saw them say, well, we got to talk to James St. Patrick. So they didn't really progress that forward with him quite yet. But my guess is that that probably is coming next week or shortly thereafter, because they have to interrogate him as well. But my whole thing is that, you know, they already had determined that it's the task force, it's somebody in the task force that's involved. So I'm not sure why they were now going to shift focus towards him when they know that the, you know, the cell towers that were used in that building was where the signal came from. So I don't understand why they would divert attention away from that towards Jamie when they need to be focused primarily on who in this office did it.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. There was no resolution to who that was. They didn't say who they thought it was, or like it's like everyone basically got off clean. But I don't know if maybe they're still investigating it to figure out who it is. But you know,
I think they definitely are still investigating. It can't end that quick. One other thing I did want to say real quick. No, probably jumping a little bit all over the place, but man, there was a lot of stuff that happened in this episode. Let's talk about the whole thing with Angela and her confrontation with Tasha. And Tasha stood up there and lied, and of course, she didn't believe him. She didn't believe her, you know. But my thing is this: at the end of the episode, when Angela met up with Ghost, why didn't she have the whole line about, oh, so what happened at the hotel? I know you was with Tasha. Why didn't she say anything about that? Because you see, that right there would at that point, you know, okay, yeah, I'm caught. I have to say something. But she immediately went to, what do you know about Lobos? And didn't even bother to mention it, because I've seen that a lot of times in movies, different storylines, narratives, where obviously you will go to that because the person knows something, they bring that up, and now that, you know, puts a little bit more pressure on the person. So she didn't even mention that she knew anything about that. I'm assuming maybe perhaps she will mention that later on, but I think she should have mentioned that at the end, because then that would have put Jamie in an even more uncomfortable situation.
Yeah, she definitely should have, because like, well, there was a scene where when Jamie's telling Tasha what's going on with the Serbs, she actually mentions that Angela came by at that point. So I guess he kind of knows that they've been in communication, but she definitely should have brought up the hotel thing, because then that would automatically let Jamie know that, oh shit, she knows more than she's supposed to know right now. So so then, you know, he'd be a bit more worried, I guess, and it would probably compromise him a little bit more. But yeah, I think ultimately Jamie played it well by not actually admitting to anything, but he did kind of left it at, you know, I'll try and fix this. I'll try and help you out. I'll try and find out what happened. That was basically the vibe I got from him after that scene. But he played it smartly because he didn't admit to anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. But he did say I'll fix it.
Yeah. He said I'll fix it.
That makes you look guilty by saying that. Oh yeah. So I do know something, because I'm telling you, well, I'll fix it. Yeah. So that's you know. I mean, he didn't go so far as to tell her any details, so you give him credit there. But they have done a great, you know, to give a shout out to Nellie Mack once again. He had a great line saying that the writers really did a great job of showing Ghost in a vulnerable and desperate state, and that is continuing so much, you know, with this, because you know when you got to the point in this episode where he finally talked to Tasha and told her the truth. That shows you how vulnerable he is, how scared he is of the situation.
Yeah, especially going to Tasha and asking her for money for the children's trust fund money or whatever, like the college money and stuff like that. That makes him seem very vulnerable, because up to this point, he's never really had to beg anyone for money or anything like that.
So. Absolutely. And of course, we have to address. Well, we're going to address two things, but first, let's address this first. I want to say that this Milan villain, in my personal opinion, this is the best villain that they have ever had in this series. Period. Now, I'm not trying to throw shade at Kanan. You know, Kanan is doing his own thing, and it's going to be very interesting to see once Ghost finally actually sees this guy, which I'm still surprised, because he is on the premises. I'm pretty sure that there's security footage or something that they saw. Oh, who is this guy? You know, I guess we'll find out about that later. But Milan is an excellent villain. I wasn't expecting this dude to just straight up show up at this dude's house and try to and arrange to have dinner with them like that. I mean, he seems a lot more threatening and dangerous. We got to see him, you know, they killed the guy right in front of Ghost and Tommy earlier in the episode. So we got to see just how ruthless and dangerous he is, way better than any villain that they've had on the show. But like you said, I'm very curious to know what it is that he slipped up on, because I guess we'll find out more about that soon. But would you agree that you think that he is possibly one of the better villains they've had on the show, or do you still think that Kanan should be considered number one above him? And keep in mind, I know you're a 50 Cent fan, but from a standpoint of looking at both villains, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think he's definitely a menacing, you know, villain. And they did a great job in this episode building him up, because last week, you know, he was a bit more laid back. Like, it seemed like, okay, so this security guy is this dude Milan, and he wants Jamie to deal drugs for him, basically. Like, there was no, like, we didn't really get to see that menacing side. Like, it was just, okay, whatever, cool. Yeah. But like this week, like, you really got to see his character and his ruthlessness. Like, and you know, just when he showed up at Jamie's place like that was just like some gangster shit straight up. Like,
oh yeah.
So yeah, and you know, beating up Tommy and stuff like that. But he actually, you know, saved Tommy in the end. Well, not saved him, but just he stopped them from killing him, because I guess he saw that, you know, Tommy could be valuable in some way.
Well, I do have something to say about that, but before I address that, to stay on with Milan, because I know that when we recorded last week's episode, we had a discussion afterwards about some other issues with last week's episode, and I think that while I do agree that you know, we had a couple people in the comments say that was incredible the way they introduced this character, we had this one question we asked last week, and just exactly how much money is this guy owed? I mean, because he'd been getting paid from Ghost for security reasons. So it makes you question, what does this guy want? You know, I know he wants the drugs in the hotels. That's why he wants him to get the Karen Bassett deal. He wants the drugs in the club. So I guess it's about power. It's not really just about the money. So I guess we got a little bit of that answer. But last week I was very confused when I said, you know, this guy has been working with him for a period of time. He's been getting paid top dollar. Well, exactly how much money does this guy want from Ghost? That's why I didn't get, but I guess we got a little bit of an explanation on that this week.
Yeah, like, it seems like he's after, you know, like it seems like he's setting this whole thing up so that he can take it all from Ghost, basically. Like, he wants to, because like, he knows about the warehouse, and he brought them to their own warehouse where they used to deal their own drugs from. So like, it's like he's planning and plotting. Like, he wants Jamie and Tommy to get it up and running and everything, like, and everything circulating in clubs and in the hotels, and then, you know, it's like he might just decide to step in and take it from them, and maybe even try to kill them. So, you know, it seems like he's basically after that entire territory, like the whole New York, basically. So that's what it seemed like. Because I mean, obviously, you know, before Milan was around, he basically had Vladimir running things from him, and Vladimir definitely didn't have the territories that Jamie had. So it seems like, you know, he's all about taking everything Jamie has at this point.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. That's what he wants. So it's kind of like, you know, we know that Kanan wants Ghost to suffer, but it's as if this guy is already doing that now, because he is so involved in every activity that he's done. So, well, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens once Kanan gets into this equation, because I don't really know what's going to happen with that.
There's only two ways it can go with Kanan and Milan. Either Milan's gonna die and Kanan will take over, or they might even team up. Like basically, Milan might hire Kanan to run the whole thing, and then either Jamie has to work under Kanan, or they're like, Jamie and Tommy will be cut out completely from the drug trade, and they'll be out to kill them, basically. Like,
you know, I think you just said it right there, and I thought about that when you said that. I don't know if I would be a fan of, because my thing is, as I already mentioned, we know that Kanan is on the premises. I kind of find it a little ridiculous that nobody would see this guy and they'd be like, well, hold on, wait a second, who is this guy? It's like, completely oblivious to the fact that he is in the area, he's on the premises at certain times. But I think it would be a little bit too ridiculous if all of a sudden, once Kanan finally has this interaction with Milan, and they're cool already. Yeah, how you doing, Kanan? You trying to take this guy down as well, so let's work together. But I could see that happening. I guess the writers will go to extreme lengths to make it appear as though these guys are already working together, because we haven't yet seen any interaction with Kanan and anyone else except for Dre. So we'll have to see how that pans out. Go ahead.
Yeah, and speaking of Dre, there was that scene where he was in the office talking to Kanan on the phone, and then obviously we know that there may be a camera or a mic there somewhere, because that's the reason why Jamie wanted to talk to Dre outside, the office. So after that, the Serbs must definitely know that something's going on with Kanan. So like, what are they going to do with that information? Are they going to tell Jamie? Are they going to use it for their own advantage and team up with Kanan? Like, there's so many possibilities right now.
That's a very good point. We have to see how that goes. Now let's also address what you mentioned earlier about Tommy getting beat down. This episode definitely made you feel as though Tommy was going to get killed, only because of the way that they set it up. But I knew they would not go in that direction, obviously, because, this is Ghost's right-hand man. Because, these guys still need to try to team up and do something. Obviously, him finding out about Holly, that kind of sucked the way he found out about that. Because, Tasha just had a women's intuition, I guess you could say, decided to throw out, so why did you do that to Holly? Didn't know what the hell she was talking about. Didn't confront Ghost about it yet either. So I'm not really sure how that's going to. He didn't have any other interaction with Ghost this whole episode. So we'll have to see how that goes. But in terms of the whole thing with the build up to you have Tommy in this massive, getting his ass whooped, and they had you think that he's not going to make it. Here's the thing with that. And this is, again, maybe I look at this stuff a little bit more critical, but from a storyline standpoint, if you are the enemy and you decide to beat up your somebody who you could see as a potential threat, you should just finish him off. So when Milan decided not to do that, to me, that's very cliche, and that's going to come back and bite him in the ass, because you can't think that, I'm just going to beat up this guy, he's going to take it, and he's still going to work for me. As soon as they find a way to get around this situation, I'm pretty sure Tommy would kill him. They wouldn't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
So I'm very confused as to why he would take. So that was a slip up that Milan did have, because if I'm the bad guy and I see someone as a potential threat after I've done damage to him, I'm going to finish the job, because I don't want to, spare any expense thinking that person could come back after me later.
That shows Milan's character. Like, he really thinks he's in control of the entire situation, to where he'll make a mistake like that. And, because he really feels like, okay, if I let this guy live, what's he going to do? He can't do anything. I'm in control. I'm the big guy. He's that cocky. And that's why I'm very interested to see what mistake, Jamie was talking about. Like, I really want to see where Milan slipped up, because right now it seems like he's got control over everything. Like, so I really want to see what weakness Jamie is going to try and exploit at this point. What did you think the scene where Kanan actually kills that poor old lady? Like, what do you think that means?
Okay, that was confusing. Obviously, they have to explain more of that, and they want to do, like, I guess, interesting things to keep you asking questions about what's going to happen next. I believe we spoke off camera. I believe you said that possibly could have been someone related to Ghost, maybe killing a family member, or maybe my guess is that maybe that also could have been, you know, maybe a place that Kanan used to live. Maybe he has a stash or something in that house, and that's why he wanted to get in the house, take out the lady, and get access to his whatever he has in there. That would be my only guess, because I mean, it was very random to just straight up. I know you need to show that Kanan is ruthless. He just doesn't care. He just does whatever he does. He's going to do. But there was no explanation behind that. So I guess we'll get more answers on that next week. But my guess is that he probably has something in there, because I do remember that that after he killed her, I guess there was a hole in the wall that he started to look at, and like he was pulling something out of that. So I don't know what that is yet, but I guess we'll find out more about that next week.
Yeah, that definitely was very ruthless, because I mean, if he wanted to retrieve something from the place, he didn't even have to kill her. But I guess, like you said, they're trying to show that he really is a ruthless person, and he just doesn't care about anything. Like, he has a lot of regard for life. So,
oh yeah, no, he doesn't. Yeah, well, he killed his own son, so he definitely don't care about anyone else in their life.
Yeah, very true. Man, so much happened. I don't know. You got anything else you wanted to talk about specifically?
Let me think. If I could be very honest here, and I don't want to appear to be the bad guy in this, but I can't wait to see the head of that department. I can't wait to see him go down, Mike Sandoval, because this guy, I feel like, I kind of lost when they had the discussion. I kind of felt like he was another one that also tried to throw Angela under the bus. And the thing about it is that, we already know that this guy is the one that's involved in all of this. So I want to see justice prevail on as far as that's concerned. Get this guy out of there, because he's the one that's connected.
I mean, that was the moment when I really wanted to see him go down, when he gave up the information about Jamie and Angela. Like, when he gave that up in his interview, I was like, okay, you shit back, because basically, like, they were kind of unintentionally helping each other, because obviously Angela was involved with Jamie and she wanted to do what's best for that situation, and Mike was actually he's the one that's guilty of being in contact with Lobos and stuff like that. So they were unintentionally kind of helping each other in certain situations this season, and we kind of saw that play out a little bit, where they were basically helping each other without even trying to. But at that point, that was like, okay, I don't care about giving up Angela if it means I'm safe. So because of that, I'm just like, okay, screw this dude. He needs to get exposed. So I hope that happens in the next episode.
Yeah. Well, either the next episode or as the show goes on, I definitely want this character to get what's coming to him, because this guy is, but as we saw from all of this interrogation stuff, it clearly, when people feel as though they are in trouble, they have no problem throwing their teammates, their comrades under the bus, because they feel as though they want to get attention off of them. One thing I will add to the other guy who they questioned, and they said that you're into some crazy stuff, and they never showed or spoke about what that is. The other officer that they also showed, the guy who always acted. He tried to give both Knox and Angela a hard time. The guy with the red hair, I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, I know who you mean.
Yeah, but they had that little thing where they went through his file. They said, we know about stuff that you do outside of work. And they never really expanded upon what it was that it is that he done. Because, of course, I guess it's not important to the storyline. But as a viewer, you're definitely interested. So what is he into that's so bad?
I got a feeling it's probably something sexual, like, like pornography, or I don't know, like some kind of sexual thing.
I think so, because he always talks about sexual tension with Greg and Angela. So yeah, it probably is that. we have to see how that goes, how that pans out. I mean, but overall, this episode was fantastic. There was a lot of great things that happened. I mean, there's a lot that happened. It's a lot, and again, as someone who was a viewer, you always will question, when they said that this power got renewed for 2 seasons, I thought to myself, well, that's great, but how much story do they have left, and can that survive for the next 2 seasons?
Yeah.
I think this episode proves it can, because you had so many different things intertwined in the storyline. You have a storyline going on with the officers themselves having to worry about what's going on with this investigation. You have Jamie has the club stuff now being intertwined with the game, with the whole drug stuff, and having to balance now both of those things. I mean, they have a lot of the things they can go, and then of course you got the relationships that the characters have, how things change over time. It's just that type of scenario. So
yeah. And
I'll be very.
It seems like impossible that they could drag the show on. Well, not even drag, but like just carry the show on for 2 more seasons.
Yeah.
But these writers are so talented that I can really see it happening for them, because they just keep you on the edge every week. Like, you're always wondering what's going to happen next, and they continue to blow you away with how they spin things. So.
Yeah,
they do a great job, and I am looking forward to seeing what they're going to do in these next 2 seasons.
Well, let's give them a bit of an asterisk on the last episode. They do a great job, but it's just they need to try not to rush through some stuff, unless of course it's getting to a main point. I guess we got the payoff again with this episode, because the last episode, man, that writing, man, that made my head hurt after I watched that episode. I'm like, why? And then you had the ending the way it did. Ghost just cut it off with Angela, and it's like, man, I wasn't a fan of that. But I think they redeemed themselves with this episode, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what happens the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Like, oh man, okay, so yeah, so I guess like Ghost is gonna have to find some way to come with the money for Karen. I really think he will. I think what's gonna happen is he's gonna have a conversation with Karen to kind of prolong, the period of getting his investment money, and I think he'll find some way to seal the deal. But I guess we'll see. Maybe he'll even ask Dre to do it, because they seem to have some kind of chemistry, like Dre and Karen, because they're always like complimenting each other and stuff like that. So I don't know, but.
He could do that. Also, don't forget the little plot point of the rival club, and how Dre actually has friends that were trying to get in. They were trying to rob Truth. So you never know if that's a route, option that may be explored down the road. Because they already, I mean, they brought that up multiple times for a reason, I think, and they introduced these other guys for a reason as well. So I think that at some point, there's going to be some type of activity that happens with that other club.
Oh, like Jamie could utilize that to his advantage, to be honest, because like now that Milan wants product moving in the club, like he could orchestrate the club being robbed, so that that whole product is robbed by Dre's people, and then they can resell that for themselves on the streets, and then he can make some money to pay Karen, possibly. I don't know. But yeah, like that could be something they utilize. But we don't know. See, that's the thing as well. We don't know where Dre's loyalties lie, because now he's under pressure from Kanan. So
yeah, he's under pressure. But man, he gonna have to make a very tough decision. And I have no idea how that's going to end. And then again with Kanan, again, he hasn't had any contact with you haven't seen him with Ghosts, Tommy, or anybody else. I kind of feel like that's going to change. The next episode, you might see him have some type of interaction with somebody we know. And, I mean, that's what my guess would be. But he's not going to stay hidden for long now, because I find it hard to believe how, if they, quote unquote, are watching the facility, make sure that it's secure, that there's no way. They have to see that this guy is talking to Dre, who works there, and they have to question, well, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah. Like,
So something's gonna happen with that. What you gonna say?
I think it's a guarantee that, you know, the Serbs are gonna know about Kanan's existence, you know, probably in the next episode. But
Yeah,
what they do with that information, I have no idea what will happen from there. But I think it's a given that they're definitely gonna find out about him. So
yeah. Oh yeah, they definitely will. Yeah, so we have to see how that pans out. All I know though, if something does happen to Kanan, which it won't. But if something did happen to Kanan, you know, you will see Jukebox return and raise hell as well. So we'll have to see how that pans out, because I still feel like she is still going to be a part of this at some point. So we have to see how it pans out.
yep. Yeah, man. I mean, this episode. There was a lot to process, so we definitely want to hear some comments from you guys. Shouts to, you know, the people who've been leaving comments on the YouTube video and everything. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I guess that's it. So ratings. What do you rate this episode, Rich?
So I think that this week I would have. Well, let me just say this: I would have considered giving it a 5, but because of some of the stuff that I've mentioned already, where, you know, you had the thing where, you know, Angela didn't say that she actually knows that Jamie was at the club. You know, you had the stuff with Milan, where, you know, they let Tommy go. I mean, I have to give them maybe a 4.5. I don't want to give it a complete 5 score, because there's a couple things like that when you left it open-ended. I felt like that was a little like, all right, well, whatever. But yeah, I have to say 4.5. Still a great score. I still think they can even make a better episode than this. This episode was fantastic, but I think it's still, there's a couple other things they can do to move the storyline further. So 4.5 for me for right now.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. I'm actually gonna go ahead and give it a 5, to be honest, because I just like intricate episodes like this where there's loads of little tidbits to analyze and stuff. It's one of the reasons I really love The Wire. Like that's
Yes.
like my favorite TV show, because they consistently did this as well. Like near enough every episode, like there was something to dissect and, you know, try and figure out what's going on and stuff. And every scene mattered in you know, that show. And I feel like this episode was kind of like that. There was a lot to decipher, a lot to try and figure out, you know, and there was a lot of underlying things that, you know, they didn't exactly come out and tell you, but you could see happening, like the camera that was in Jamie's office and stuff like that. Like there was a lot of little tidbits like that where you could, you know, try and come up with, you know, some sort of angle or spin on what's going to happen moving forward. I love that kind of episode, to be honest. And coming off of last week as well, this was a great episode in comparison.
Oh yeah, without question.
Yeah, it just made me enjoy it even more. So I'm really waiting to see what the next episode's going to be like, you know, like how do they move forward from here. And that finale is probably going to be pretty amazing too. So I guess we'll see.
Oh yeah. Well, we're at episode this was episode 7. We have 3 more episodes left, so we'll see about that.
Yep. Is there an episode next week, or is it the Labor Day or whatever?
Oh no, there's an episode next week, but there's a break after next week. So we'll have to see whether or not. But there is an episode. There's definitely a new episode next week.
Okay, cool. Just making sure, because, you know, I might get mad if I don't see one next week. Okay, yeah. So that's the show for today, guys. Leave your comments. Let us know what you think. And thanks for listening. Definitely check out the Koalition.com as well for more content, video games, pop culture, hip hop. We got it all. So check that out. Rich, any final words?
Oh no, I thank everybody for listening or watching. Feel free to let us know what you think about Power. And yeah, thanks for the continued support, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Definitely. And shouts to Starz too. You guys are great.
Yes. Special thanks to Starz.
Peace.